Hi everyone, Susan Brown here. You see this picture? Well, today we're going to talk just a little tad about women's dress. You know, this is Women's Health History Month. This is the 12th of March. And thinking about it, we realize that each of us in our own ways plays an important role in creating women's history. My life in particular has been dedicated to trying to alter the way women are treated around bone health. But looking back, I realize each of our relatives tell us interesting stories about women's history. And particularly, I want to mention just a few words about my grandmother. My grandmother was an amazing person. She was born 15 years after the Civil War ended, and just about the same time that another woman in central New York named Mary Walker was one of the first women in medical school in Syracuse, New York. This is Mary's picture. Now, Mary was really dedicated as a surgeon. She was a surgeon. You're going to see, she actually went to the Civil War to volunteer to help the wounded. She was a surgeon, but most of all, you might guess by her dress, she was also very interested in women's dress reform. She was an abolitionist, she was a suffragist, but one of her major campaigns was about women's dress. In fact, she wrote on the topic a great deal and said that really women's dress should protect the person, allow freedom of motion, and not make the wearer a slave of it. Now, when you look at how women dressed it in the 1880s, you can imagine why she was kind of stoked up about this. Personally, not being too much for fashion, I love this idea that Mary Walker was one of the leaders in reforming how women dressed, seeking a freedom of dress for women. The interesting story my grandmother told me is that she knew Mary Walker because my grandmother's father was the jail keeper in Syracuse, New York at that time. And this Mary Walker got thrown into jail because she dressed like a man. That's exactly what my grandmother told me. And she was thrown into the Syracuse jail, and my grandfather felt sorry for this woman because he said she was a fine woman, she was very respectable, she really shouldn't be with all those scoundrels. My grandmother happened to be the person a little girl who took the food and slipped it under the door of of each jail cell to give food to the prisoners. So she told me that her father took Mary Walker out of the jail and put her into the house to stay during her time when she was supposed to be incarcerated. My grandmother said that Mary Walker, she was a very kind and a very gentle person. She was a sweet person, and the only reason she got thrown in jail was because she dressed like a man. I've written a blog on this topic. You'll see it now coming out soon in Better Bones. But it's very interesting. She was a surgeon. Mary Walker was a surgeon. She helped many people in the Civil War. Although she was not allowed to be a surgeon, she was allowed only to be a nurse. So this is perhaps why she also dressed like a man. She was given the Medal of Honor, the Army Medal of Honor, but that was taken away later. And my grandmother's always thought was because she dressed like a man. It's an interesting history. Eventually, she got the Medal of Honor back because her descendants fought for that. But what I say, each of us are doing our own little step to create women's history, and who knows what the world will look like in a bunch of decades. But let's all make our change, improving the life for everyone and seeing how we can contribute to the history of a greater society. And I personally have hats off to Mary Walker, who stood up many, many years ago and said women should be able to dress in comfortable clothes that effectively allow her to act and have a pleasant lifestyle. Okay, take care. Think about your grandparents. Think about your roles in history, and maybe start talking with our relatives about what they thought were the most striking events in their life regarding the movements towards women's rights, towards social justice, to